evening everyone and welcome again to another episode of Tech Sabado dito po sa YouTube at saka sa Facebook. And of course, Jing Garcia po ng TechSabado.com and the Manila Times. So, isang oras po tayo ng usapan na naman tungkol sa technology, mga nangyayari dyan, especially sa social media. Alam po, napaka-importante niyan sa inyo. And of course, other things na pwede natin pag-usapan, especially when it comes to the internet. And of course, yung mga advances na nangyayari ngayong mga panahon na to. And siyempre, sa mga oras na to, nandito po may mga guest po tayo para po pag-usapan ang mga bagay-bagay na dapat natin talagang tutukan when it comes to technology. Siyempre, may kasama tayo dito sa Tech Sabado. Papakilala ko na po ngayon ang Executive Editor ng Newsbytes.ph. Walang iba kundi si Atty.
Melvin Calimag po, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Nandito po tayo ngayon sa GESCOM building sa Ateneo de Manila University dito po sa Quezon City. And of course, kasama natin ang ating collaborator, Limang Siglo, led by Mr. J.R. Contreras, our pioneer tech friend. And of course, kasama ang kanyang mga angels. Okay.
Okay, syempre, ang next co-host natin dito, nakasama natin dito sa Tech Sabado, siyempre, ang Tito ng San Pablo, Laguna.
Yan, magandang gabi po. Tito Tribs, Raymund Tribdino po ng The Manila Times, Tech Sabado at ng cleantechnica.com.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen.
Yes.
Another week na naman. Nakaisang linggo na naman tayo dito sa Tech Sabado and balik-usapan na naman tayo sa mga nangyayari sa loob ng teknolohiya. Tito Tribs, ano meron tayo ngayon?
Okay, so Tito Jing, in the past weeks, lagi natin napapag-usapan. No? Madalas nating pinupuntirang yan, social media at mga nangyayari dyan, AI and so on. So ngayon, simulan ko dun sa guests natin. Ang ating regular. Tatlong beses yon na guest natin dito. Si Carlos Nazareno. Dililiwanag ko yung Naz kasi mamaya yung isa nating guest, Carlos din. Si Nazareno ng democracy.net.ph at saka isang cybersecurity writer ng Newsbytes ni Atty. Naz.
Hello, good evening. Happy to be here. Kumusta lahat?
And you're back.
And you're back. And ang OG and GOAT sa tech dito sa atin.
Ulitin namin mo yung GOAT,
GOAT, GOAT. Hindi kambing. Diba? Greatest of all time. Diba? Isang veteranong journalist po sa larangan sa New York Times. Dati si Carlos Caloy Conde. He was with the New York Times for over a decade since the early 2000s. Now he is a researcher at Human Rights Watch for 14 years. Siya rin ang namuno ng NUJP for a while. What date? And sat on the board of the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility. He's also a Jefferson Fellow at the University of Hawaii, born and raised in Mindanao. Caloy, magandang gabi po. Idol.
Good evening.
Magandang gabi. Salamat sa generous na introduction. Happy to be here.
Yes. Si Caloy, nakasama ko to sa interaction. Nung early days na interaction, magkakasama kami.
Okay.
Yan yung time na kaalis ko lang sa New York Times.
Okay.
Binuo yung interaction.
Yun.
Under Robbie Alampay.
Tsaka ano siya, NUJP.
Yes, National Union.
Tsaka of course, CMFR. With, sino nga ba CMFR? Sila
Melinda. Correction lang ng konti. Wala na ako sa Human Rights Watch.
Wala na, okay.
I left about 7 months ago.
Okay.
And now, gawa pa rin ako ng mga human rights advocacy ko. So I founded and now editing Rights Report Philippines, which is a non-profit journalism project.
Yes.
Specifically looking at human rights issues.
Yes. Okay. Since na-mention na yung human rights na yan ang pag-uusapan natin ngayong gabi. Yung isa kong matinding question kanya, may rights pa ba tayo online? So yan po ang magiging magiging topic natin for the whole night. And of course, kaya nga invite natin back si Naz kasi nga he is a rights advocate when it comes to internet access. And siyempre, si Caloy na matagal nga nagtrabaho sa Human Rights Watch, malaman natin sa kanya, ano ba mga nawala sa atin? Especially nung nauso tong internet at siyempre, social media. Caloy, ano ba yung tanong, tama ba yung tanong ko? May rights pa ba tayo online?
Well, legitimate na tanong yan, no? I mean, hindi naman talaga nawawala yung mga karapatan natin, mga rights natin as embodied in many laws, treaties, issuances ng gobyerno at international law. Andyan naman yan. It's all a question of who's complying with all of those.
Okay.
Kung sino nagva-violate ng mga rights na yun. Sa online sphere, mas vulnerable ang publiko sa mga violations ng human rights kasi nga, ang feeling ng marami, bagong environment. But hindi masyadong naiisip ng karamihan is that walang nagbabago in terms of your rights. Kasi yung mga yan those are there. Those are protected. Kaya ang hinahabol lagi ngayon ng mga advocates such as myself and when I was with Human Rights Watch, ang hinahabol namin yung mga tinatawag kasi tayong dalawa niyan, mga rights holders tsaka duty bearers. Yung rights holders, ang tinatawag yan, medyo jargon to. Yung rights holders, ito yung mga ordinaryong tao. Sila yung mayroong karapatan, mga citizens, tayo. Ang duty bearers, yung gobyerno kadalasan.
Okay.
Or kung sino yung mga usually nagva-violate ng human rights. So Estado. Police, military, government. Sometimes, pagdating sa international humanitarian law, may mga rebelde ganyan nasa din yan. Pero ngayon, ang pino-focus namin, hindi naman kasi hindi mo pwedeng i-derogate yung human rights. Andyan yan. Ang lang doon is kung sino ang sumusunod o kung sino ang nagva-violate. Anyan tinututukan natin pagdating lalo sa Pilipinas nang ginagamit ang tech, ginagamit ang online, lahat ng ngayon ng mga bagong tools to violate the rights of people. Ang kasama din dito, freedom of expression, freedom of the press.
Okay.
Even simple matters like freedom of association. Mga red tag na ganyan. Those are human rights violations na nagkakaroon ng bagong mukha kasi nga dahil sa technology. Andyan lang yung mga yan. Ang problema lang, accountability. Walang nangyayaring accountability.
Caloy,
Siya pa.
among the issues you mentioned, which one is the most serious?
Depende kasi kung sinong tatanungin mo. If you're going to ask the activist and civil society organizations, civil society sector, siyempre sasabihin nila red tagging.
Okay.
Kasi ang kasi ng red tagging, hindi lang yan yung ginagawa halimbawa ng mga pulis sa presinto or ng mga militar sa kampo or mga government officials. Kasama na dyan, inaano nila ngayon dito, ina-outsource nila ang red tagging online.
Yep.
Mga troll farms.
Troll farms.
Okay.
Yun ang part na yan ng nila ng ammunition nila and in fact, even the kahit mga legitimate na mga pages or mga accounts ay talagang inuudyok nila na i-red tag yung mga journalists, mga
Kinukuyog
activists.
nila, no?
Oo, inaano nila. So, merong ganong nangyayari. So, that makes the red tagging a bit more, sabihin na natin, sensitive or really problematic. Not only because hinaharas yung mga individual activists or journalists, but also a lot of cases na yung nire-red tag ay napapahamak.
True, yes.
Pinapatay, hinaharas in real life, ha?
Correct.
So parang although to be fair, wala pa naman kami nakitang pagsusuri na yung pagre-red tag sa isang tao ay directly yun ang cause kung bakit siya pinatay or sinaktan. Pero definitely the data says that karamihan ng mga pinatay or sinaktan ng mga aktivista or kung sino man ay na-red tag. So, bahala ka nang mag-connect doon. Pero yun ang lumalabas. Siguro, I'm sure marami pong issue kung ano ba talaga ang mas matinding rights violation ngayon. But, isa na nga lang dyan yung red tag. Pero, from my perspective as a human rights advocate and looking at always at accountability, matindi pa rin yung pananagutan dito ng Estado on how to fix this and how to deal with all of this. Kasi like may usapan nga, 'di ba? Lately yung sa Meta nga may decision ang isang US court against Meta because of the effect ng kanilang algorithm on the mental health of one of their users. I mean, that's well and good. That's something that we've always demand from the platform. Pero at the end of the day, pagdating dito sa konteksto ng bansang katulad ng Pilipinas, where a lot of the most of the human rights violations na really serious are happening in real life, nasa Estado pa rin yung responsibility and duty to address those.
So, ang solusyon nasa Estado?
Oh yeah, ultimately, yeah, because they're the duty bearers.
Okay.
So kahit sabihin natin a lot of these trolls, a lot of these kahit sabihin natin yung NTF, CAC on military are posting all sorts of red tagging against certain people. Ultimately, nasa estado pa rin, nasa gobyerno pa rin yan. Because they're the ones, sila yung may nito may control nito eh. Sila yung dapat managot. I mean, an important thing, I guess, to keep in mind is that under international law, maraming mga pinirmahan or nag-agree ang Pilipinas na mga tratado on human rights. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, economic rights, and all the rights of women, rights of children. Pirmado lahat ng Pilipinas yan. Hindi lang ito basta pirma-pirma. These are part of international law.
Yes.
These are part of the international human rights mechanisms. Ang question ngayon dyan sa Pilipinas, bakit hindi siya nagko-comply?
Not implementing yung ba yung ano doon?
Hindi
implement.
Well, sinasabi na nag-i-implement sila. That's why they're passing all of these laws. And to a certain degree, totoo naman. I mean, we have a lot of laws in the Philippines na kung titingnan mo, kung just on that, parang wow, ang galing naman ng Pilipinas. But it's always a question of enforcing those.
Signatory nga tayo sa UN, di ba?
Exactly.
Human rights.
Ang ano doon, ang challenge talaga doon sa gobyerno is kung paano nila panindigan yung mga commitment na yun. And that's always been the issue.
Okay.
Kaya meron tayong mga tinatawag, halimbawa sa UN, yung UN treaty bodies na tinatawag na nila, na where these are committees or experts ng UN, that they're the ones na parang oversight ng gobyerno at saka ng UN dun sa mga treaties na ito na pinirmahan ng Pilipinas. They're the ones saying na, Pilipinas, hindi mo ginagawa itong pinangako mo. Why are you killing all of these activists? Problema, yun lang ang pwedeng gawin ng UN. Pero in terms of punishing, in terms of disciplining yung mga tao, nasa gobyerno pa rin. At yan ang hindi nangyayari.
Correct.
Pero now, nagbago na kasi yung sistema ngayon, napansin ko, yung maging medyo macro ko rito, na yung nagpo-push sa atin to implement this are the human rights violator themselves, yung mga superpowers. Diba?
Pero Jing, pag bumaba, we're looking at the macro level, tama yung sinabi mo, pero pag bumaba tayo dun sa micro, tatanong ko kay Nas. Sabi ni Caloy kasi, pinupush, for example, yung NTF, ELAC, di ba, ganyan. Tapos, ang red tagging, laging pag-oppose ka dun sa sinabi ng current administration or whatever, mare-red tag ka. Especially in 2016. What is the involvement of algorithm? And what is the involvement of trolling dyan sa situation na yan?
Malaki. Kasi madalas yung mga trolls yung nagre-red tag. So, ang attack nila kapag if you're against certain government or certain political personalities, sasabihin, komunista ka siguro.
Correct.
Nagtatago ka na naman sa bundok, mga ganyan. Sa algorithms naman, hate is really viral.
Okay.
And this is a form of hate speech. So, it tends to get boosted in the algorithms kasi it's clickbaity.
Clickbaity siya.
Yeah.
Okay. So, given that situation and then what Caloy mentioned, all of these treaties now in this particular space, kasi parang when we were young and you're like this, maliwanag analog eh. Very analog yung paghiwalay sa'yo, di ba? Ikaw, ganito ka, di ba? Tapos they'll just like put a gap between you. But now, it's different. So, digitizing that, parang it moves from a commitment to a commodity. Di ba? So, when you digitize it, paano? Gaano kalalim yan at paano natin isasantabi yung mga issues na yan?
Yung problema ngayon, very asymmetrical eh. Kung ikaw yung target,
Okay.
ang dami ng kayang umabot sa'yo para dumugin ka.
Oh, okay.
Diba? Compared nung analog days, para sigawan ka or akusahan ka, konti lang eh. Yung kasi face-to-face or whatever medium. Pero sa internet, pag nag-viral ka, titirahin ka ng thousands of people. I-red tag ka.
So,
kaya doon din bumalik nga yung tanong ko, may rights pa ba tayo sa online, di ba? Kasi parang wala kang laban sa mga ganyan tao. Tsaka isa pang nangyari, isang nangyari, umpisahan ko pa rin sa 2016. Isa sa pinaka na-confuse yata yung mga tao, yung role ng human rights. Di ba? Nagkaroon ng confusion
Giniba kasi.
Giniba nila eh.
Giniba
diba?
yan
Giniba nila yung ano ba role talaga ng human rights committee, yung Commission of Human Rights. Ano ba role nito? Protektahan yung, di ba, pag may nahuhuli na, kunyari, kunyari, drug addict, nakapatay. Tapos, poprotektahan lang yan ng Human Rights Committee.
Correct.
Nagkaroon ng kinonfuse nila yung mga tao kung anong role ng hindi dapat pala estado pala ang kalaban ng di ba?
And that's deliberate, Jing. Yung ganyan.
Yun,
sa 2016, siyempre si Duterte ang talagang nagperpekto niyan. And that's deliberate. I mean, kahit naman saan ka tumingin, anybody who's attacking the human rights movement, madalas yan, mga violator din yung mga yan. They're not, we're talking about Duterte, we're talking about Trump, we're talking about Erdogan, we're talking about all of these tyrants. They're the ones that are saying, human rights is a Western concept. But it's not. That's the kind of the propaganda palagi. And even Israel is saying that. Does Israel have the right to exist? Mga tanong na mga stupid na mga tanong na ganyan. But, again, these are all designed to undermine the credibility not just of the human rights movement, but of human rights itself. As a
principle, yes.
Because alam nila na as far as, for instance, accountability and international law is concerned, ang sasandalan ng mga tao ay ang human rights.
Correct.
And human rights laws. Yun ang kaya nila inaatake ito. Sa akin, from my perch, it's hindi discussion sa akin yan kung may rights pa o wala. Meron naman tayong rights talaga. Hindi naman talaga nawawala yan.
Yes.
Pero it's a legitimate question kasi nga napakadami na ngayong pamamaraan kung paano i-violate yung rights mo. Pero itong point ko sana rin na when you really think about it, human rights, agnostic yan pagdating sa technology.
Okay.
Hindi yan, walang namimili yan. Just because they're using Facebook doesn't mean it's a lesser form of human rights violation.
Okay.
It doesn't work that way. As long as the principles and the treatises and the body of international law on human rights exist, na it says, for instance, for freedom of expression, you have the right to express yourself. Mga ganun. As long as that exists in the statutes, it's covered. Siyempre, may mga batas ngayon, and of course, attorney can fine-tune this, hindi kasi ako lawyer. May mga batas ngayon na pinapalakas pa nga yung kung paano ma-observe itong mga human rights, human rights obligations na to. But again, dahil nga sa napaka-democratized ng technology at saka yung mga tools, napakadali na lang. So, the question really is, what's the government doing about it?
Okay.
It's easy for instance, pagdating sa bullying or yung mga estudyante, pag-uusapan na rin yung tawag dito, how do you protect yourself from the algorithm. Ako, as a parent of 4 teenage kids, mga Gen Zs lahat yan, I start within the family. I mean, if you cannot expect the platforms to take care of your kids because they're mga market yung mga yan. So,
it's a business
really,
It's a business
it falls on you as a parent. So, you start there.
Taking off from what Caloy said, may saying kami sa democracy.net.ph na your rights offline are your rights online.
Yes.
Correct.
So, it doesn't disappear sa digital space.
Comment lang ako about yung about human rights offline and online, of course. Di ba nagsimula to kay Duterte, he was disparaging yung Commission on Human Rights. Tapos sabi niya, wala yung human rights na yan sa akin. Gusto, he wants parang instant justice.
Kayo po ang nagsabi na wala kayong pakialam sa human rights. At bakit po nyo nasabi yun?
Hindi man ako empleyado ng human rights. So, I'm not trying to be funny. Wala akong pakialam sa human rights. Wala naman ako, hindi ako sa Kongreso. Hindi ako member ng whatever. Wala ako, malayo ako sa human rights. So,
Mr.
wala
Chair,
akong pakialam.
Pero ngayon naman, he's invoking
Human
rights.
Due process.
Oo. So, ganun yan eh. Pag ikaw yung oppressor, yung violator, gusto mo wala. Pero kapag ikaw yung victim na, gusto mo na. Ganun yun, di ba? So it's kaya nga may universal
double
concept.
standard.
Oo, kaya nga nandyan yung Universal Declaration of Human Rights, di ba? Para to for all people to
Para
be
clear.
Yes.
It applies to everybody.
Oh,
It applies to
yes,
everybody.
yes.
Actually, regardless of what we think of what Mr. Duterte said, which personally I think is napaka-egregious, but he touched on something there. Kasi, it's not so much that he said all those things. My problem sa akin is that a lot of people
Like it.
nanalo.
Like it. Yeah.
So that raises the question, bakit?
Correct.
So, ang ano ko doon, ang tingin ko din naman doon, may kakulangan din naman talaga ang human rights movement.
Okay.
Pagdating sa human rights education. Since martial law, since Marcos. Kasi, I mean, just a little bit of history. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the human rights movement, but just a little bit of history. After EDSA, ano tayo tawang ito,
Euphoric.
Euphoric. Manalo
euphoric,
tayo,
and we created the first human rights commission in Asia.
Correct.
Itong si HR. And that's a source of pride for a lot of us. Si Kapepe Joke, tatay ni Chel Joke, siya ang namuno dyan. Pero after that, nagkalimutan na. And for the longest time, si HR, and in all fairness to in fairness to the CHR naman ngayon, nag-improve naman. Pero for the longest time, before Raila De Lima became the chairman there, it's a calcified bureaucracy. Hindi gumagana.
Yeah.
Andyan, they were just wasting away in their office in Quezon City.
Natulog no?
Wala talaga. Wala. And meanwhile, all of these violations were happening.
Yes.
So, and even human rights education, promoting human rights sa media, sa schools, practically nawala. So that, to the point na, and then, ang kaakibat niyan, syempre, nawawala yung consciousness ng mga tao sa human rights, yung violation, ituloy-tuloy. So, naging normalize yung...
Correct. Yes.
Naging normalize yung violations of human rights, pero yung mga police natin on the violations, tulog.
Correct.
And I'm not just speaking about CHR, I'm talking about all the other institutions, including the media.
Yep.
About these things. So, talagang it was a perfect storm talaga for what happened next. Create talaga yung condition na yun for the likes of Mr. Duterte to come along and pretty much hijack the whole thing.
Tapos pumasok pa yung social media, doon mo makikita yung mga tao, they don't know anything about rights.
Deer in the headlight moment natin yan.
Oo, tama. Deer in the headlight
May
moment.
ako dyan. Kasi galing ako sa IT Ang weird na nakikita ko sa IT community, when it comes to digital rights, they're generally apathetic, walang pakialam. Until masagasaan na sila mismo.
Okay.
Ang naiintindihan lang na yung right to internet access. Lahat kami may, yun ang human right ko. Yun ang naiintindihan nila. But the rest, wala na.
But that also points to another problem din naman sa society natin, which is that masyado compartmentalized or limitado yung pagtingin natin sa human rights.
Okay.
Human rights lang yan pag affected ako. Pero pag hindi ako affected, sa inyo yan. So, I mean, it's a typical...
It's a global problem, di ba?
Hindi lang naman sa Pilipinas.
It's a global problem.
Pero, again, ito yung nakakaano dito ito yung medyo nakaka-disappoint because we as a people, we are supposed to be... Our history shows na we are in a very good position to really educate ourselves on the value of human rights, democracy, and all that. Pero nakaligtaan yan. But there are reasons why. Poverty, I mean, di ba? Narinig ko pala, hindi nyo naman nakakain yung human rights.
Yes.
Pero, actually, totoo, makakain mo actually. Because what? We're talking about economic rights, for instance. All of this oil price hikes, this crisis, this is also a human rights issue. Ano ang ginagawa ng gobyerno, for instance, to make sure to assure us that inflation and all of these oil price hikes are not going to affect us, our livelihood. Ito pa, dinagdagan pa ito ng mga panghuli-huli ngayon ng DILG sa sangkaterbang tao na walang mga t-shirt. So, yan mga, tuhog-tuhog yung mga yan. So, every time na sinasabi nila, hindi mo naman makakain ng human rights, no, that's not true. So, every time na magreklamo ang mga human rights advocates, ang taas-taas ang presyo,
that's a human rights
violation.
violation.
Accountability yan, issue yan ng gobyerno. Anong ginagawa ng gobyerno?
Correct.
So doon pa lang violation na yun, no?
Violation na.
Yes. Okay, we'll talk more about human rights dito sa Tech Sabado pagbabalik po namin in a few moments.
Hi, ako po si Caloy Conde, editor po ng Rights Report Philippines. Please like, share, or follow Tech Sabado.
Okay, we're back dito sa Tech Sabado. We're still talking about human rights, online and offline. So, yan. Continue natin. So, tama nga, no, yung mga nangyayari sa economy. Yung, it's also a part ng, human rights violations sa mga tao, lalo na pag affected sila ng, nangyayari sa ekonomiya ng bansa.
Oh, definitely. And, if we stretch the argument, even pagdating sa digital rights, just to kind of put that in context. So every time na halimbawa pagtaas ng presyo ang mga telcos. And we know telcos are the main modes ng internet access ng mga Pilipino. It's a human rights violation in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, hindi mahirap tuhugin.
Yep.
Free speech.
True.
Free speech.
Yeah.
Because ang obligation ng gobyerno, it has to create conditions for freedom of expression and speech to flourish.
Okay.
So every time na mayroong mga policies and actions na sabing, okay, tataasan natin yung collection natin sa, di ba, I don't know, you remember this, there was a time na pinag-uusapan yung metering system ng internet.
Years ago.
Di ba? Naging issue yun eh. Kasi
Correct.
again, it affects the people's right to information.
Right to internet access. di ba?
Exactly. If you remember also, there was a time when Facebook initiated that thing, the free internet.
Free internet.
Yes.
Free basics.
Di ba?
Yung Facebook basic.
Kahit wala kang basta Facebook, makakaano ka. I mean, we were so happy about it because okay, may internet, pero hindi natin alam na na pala yun. Hindi natin na-realize na may trap pala yun, di ba?
Headline lang nabasa.
Oo.
Nauso yun dati, headline lang.
Knowing what you know now, you can make the argument that that was designed to violate your
Correct.
Or
Right.
make you
Addictive
to
Or
that.
right to access nga, information.
Kasi walled garden siya eh.
Walled garden, that's a term
So,
for that.
trap ka sa isang parang hardin na hindi makakapasok, hindi ka makakalabas. Andun ka lang sa platform na yon. Whereas yung internet, mas malawak pa kaysa doon.
Yes.
Hindi mo ma-access yung full internet.
Parang Hotel California yun.
Tsaka ano pa yan eh, yung halimbawa, yung mga issue ngayon ng Roblox,
Yun.
I mean, the DICT or the CICC,
Taking down websites.
websites, mga shutdown, mga takedown nila, tsaka yung their attempt to intimidate Signal.
Yep.
Although they didn't follow through on that one. No? Hindi pa.
Wala pa yata silang fina-follow through na dun sa mga hinahabol nilang big platforms na i-block. Yung problema kasi dun, nagsisignal sila, for every single problem na makita nila, banhammer ang nilalabas nila.
Yes.
So, threat of banhammer na lang lagi. Tapos may kipag-usap sila kuno, tapos parang wala rin nangyari, tuloy lang, pagkatapos nila mag-threat of banhammer. Pero yung problema dun, yung buong internet is a dangerous place actually for kids.
Yeah.
So you should not let your kids go on the internet
By themselves.
Unsupervised. Yun.
Ginagawa kasi nilang
Babysitter.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, kung tutuusin mo, lahat ng platform may mga, basta online, tapos may bata, may mga predator yan, o masasamang tao, may mga scammer, etc. So, anong gagawin ng DICT, at saka ng NTC at CICC? Lahat ba yan tatakutin lang, ibaban namin kayo? Isa-isa. Paano yung mga maliliit na platform na walang capability, kunyari, maggawa ng representative sa Pilipinas dahil hindi economically feasible. So, malaking problema siya. And I think DICT should stop this behavior.
Devil's advocate here, Tokayo. Anong option ng DICT na para magawa nila yung trabaho nila for oversight?
Digital literacy.
Digital literacy.
So, turuan ng mga magulang tsaka yung mga bata na paano mag-navigate ng internet safely. Tsaka yung mga magulang, yung problema kasi, kunyari may mga OFW, hindi ma-supervise yung mga anak. Pero, in general, dapat hindi pinapabayaan mag-isa yung mga bata. Tsaka kailangan ng open conversations with your children para hindi sila nagtatago ng ginagawa nila sa internet sa'yo. May level of trust dapat na ine-encourage yung magulang para open ang channels of communication sa bata.
Pero di ba, it's easy to say, pero pagdating nga sa real world,
No. Yung digital literacy is very difficult.
Mahirap siya, pero I think
Doable.
it's doable. Kasi kunyari, sabihin natin, medyo side quest ng konti. Sa Finland, they do digital media literacy as young as kindergarten.
Okay.
Kaya very resilient against Russian disinformation yung Finland. So kindergarten pa lang may MIL tsaka digital literacy na.
So, dapat siguro ipasok na sa ano?
Sa curriculum. Sa grade school curriculum kasama
Ang
na dapat
problema kasi
yan.
ngayon, I don't detect that's happening.
Yes.
Bakit kaya?
I don't know, tanongin natin ang DepEd dyan.
Tayo natin si VP.
No, it's a real issue. Kasi
Correct.
again, it may seem like napaka-idealistic mo naman magsalita about parents dapat yan. Kahit ako, minsan
Ako rin.
Kaya
Hirap
lang,
nun eh.
kasi nga, may mga konteksto din yan eh. Kasi hindi naman tayo first world, mga parents natin busy magtrabaho, nasa ibang bansa, di ba? I mean, these
At
are
saka yung
real-
social classes din, may ano
Yeah.
yan. May divide din yan.
Those are real issues.
Oh.
So dito kayo, again, babalik ako dito, anong ginagawa ng gobyerno if it knows the problem, sila dapat ngayon pumasok dito eh, na they grab this and then solve this. So, ano ba yung mga potential nilang gawin? Again, DepEd. Pero wala nga tayong nakikitang
Tama.
any sustained
Or effort.
campaign,
Yes,
for
campaign,
instance, for
yes.
digital literacy. We don't see that. Ang nakikita lang natin mga ganyan, mga initiative lang ng mga media companies tsaka ng mga certain institutions. But the government itself, wala. In fact, sa mga schools, sa public schools, it's barely there.
Correct.
And
Status quo lahat eh, yung nangyayari dun. Kung ano yung lumang curriculum, yung pa rin eh.
tapos ang ginagawa na lang nila, walang phone sa classes. I mean, that's a very
What about other countries na banning minors on social media or web games?
Australia,
I think
Solution?
there's something there. Kasi it has proven to be harmful to minors, social media.
Social media.
As it is with the algorithms. Kasi may mga forms of social media naman na benevolent. Gaya ng Wikipedia, that's social media.
Yeah.
It's a social media platform.
YouTube.
But YouTube, may algorithmic rabbit holes din dyan that can radicalize. So, addictive rin na YouTube eh. Pero yung shining example is Wikipedia and in smaller internet forums that cater to knowledge sharing. So, pag hindi mo naman pwede i-ban ang bata sa Wikipedia. Kasi may mga bata na very thirsty for knowledge.
Yeah.
So, you're crippling those children. Pero yung isang problema dun sa sa social media banning of minors is paano mo i-determine na minor yung tao.
Okay.
So, mangolekta ka ng ID, ginagawa rin nila is mag-facial capture sila. Ibabangga nila sa AI model para sabihin na bata o matanda yan. Tapos, natatakot ako sa data collection eh.
Okay.
Kasi itong mga corporation na to, they're out to extract resources and money out of you. They're out to make money out of your data. And you're just giving them more data by giving them your ID. And let's say, it's a Chinese platform kasi may mga malaki na sila sa AI and gaming industry. Social media rin. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is a Chinese company.
Correct.
So you're now handing over, if you give them your ID, you're handing them the physical location of Filipinos. So that's also a national security risk, I think.
Oh.
yung mga
Sabi nga
KYC, ano?
Okay,
Sabi nila, hindi raw 16 years old, is 60 years old.
60 years old.
Sila yung na-scam eh.
Pero on the other hand, susugan ko lang yun, we also need to look at this fact na ito na there's real harm being done online.
Yes.
We're talking about what? Online sexual abuse
Correct.
and exploitation of children.
Yep.
It's a big thing
Correct.
now.
Yes.
And that is, ang isang pananaw kasi dyan is that social media use is a gateway to those kind of problems.
Yep.
The more na masyadong yung mga bata exposed sa paglalaro ng social media ng phone, it's normalizing a certain type of behavior na hindi mo mahihirapan kang i-monitor. And again, madaling sabihin na dapat di bigyan ng phone yung mga bata, dapat hindi nyo. I mean, some parents do that. I mean, I do that because I only have a few kids, and I have a really good partner. But other families na busy, I mean, privilege kasi yung mga natin mga position natin we can do that.
Yes.
But other families na, lalo na mga urban poor na they look at the phone, even though yung mga pinaka-cheap na phone na yan, as a form of babysitting nila. So, paano yun?
May isang may isang interview sa GMA7 tungkol sa TikTok. May nanay pinapag-TikTok niya lang magdamag yung anak niya hanggang midnight na bata. ang sabi niya, kaysa naman maglaro sa labas ng gabi.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. And it's a practical kind of problem for many of these families. I mean, you have a kid na nandyan lang, nakikita mo ng TikTok, but that allows you to, work, to earn a living. So paano yun? Talaga, it's a heck of a problem na dapat ang nagsosolve talaga dyan is government. Now, we demand from the platform certain steps and initiatives. But at the same time, they cannot do it naman.
They're not gonna self-regulate.
No, they're not gonna do that because it goes against their interests.
Correct.
That's true.
Maghahanap talaga yan sila ng paraan to work around the system.
They're so big na anong pakialam ko dyan sa Pilipinas?
Yeah.
Well, apparently, may pakialam sila sa Pilipinas kasi, Telegram ba yun? Roblox. Medyo napapunta dito yung representatives para makipag-usap Kasi we're like, sa social media, top 1, 2, 3 tayo in the world sa social media usage. So, we're not nothing. Maybe yung ROI per head natin mas mababa. Pero we're still a big audience.
A market pa rin sa kanila.
And the thing is, wala tayong Section 230 shield. A platform liability shield na nasa US. So, in the Philippines, I think we can enact laws that can bring social media platforms to bear.
Yeah.
So yun nga, so kulang tayo sa regulation, pero sabi nga, ang dami nang batas sa Pilipinas. So pero kulang pa rin tayo sa regulation. Pero
Quality naman ng batas.
Yung quality, yung din dyan, minsan nga, yung regulation or batas na iniisip natin, by the time ma-implement, paso na, obsolete na. Kasi nauna na yung technology. Dahil naunahan na ng technology yung batas na yun. Which is happening para sa akin, every time. Na every time yung kikilos ng gobyerno, wala na, ineffective na, especially with these social media companies.
Which is why I think groups like NetDems, kina Doc Ligot, they're doing that already naman, but more should be doing that in terms of advocating to the government, to Congress, to the Senate, to really consider laws na maayos. Hindi lang yung, sige, fake news.
Knee-jerk reaction.
Mga tipong, lang, di ba? Parang puputulan mo na lang kagad ng ulo it needs to be it needs to be well thought out. It needs to be practical at the same time. And also dapat i-consider nga itong mga nuances ng issues. So
which leads me to the question, Caloy. You said kanina, which is very telling, no, yung medyo natulog yung human rights movement, and advocacy, promotion, everything. Before the term of De Lima, nung kay Pinoy yata siya, no? Tapos nung pumasok si Duterte, wala na tayong konsepto noon. Kaya talagang inabuso ni Duterte yung no? Right now, what's the current state of human rights activism here in the Philippines?
Tingin ko naman, ang human rights movement ngayon, they're in a better place now than before. They survive, because I belong in that sphere, we survived Duterte, and then I think we came out stronger. I mean, the fact alone na dumating tayo sa punto na nasa Hague na si Duterte, that's a very big victory for the human rights movement, for the public. Tingin ko naman, they are improving their engagement sa publiko. You now have multiple entities that are making really headway in terms of human rights education. You have the Atty Human Rights Center is doing that. The UP Human Rights Center is doing that. A lot of other human rights groups na hindi necessarily yung laging nababrand ng mga kaliwa or mga aktivista ng human rights group. Marami ng ganun na lumalabas. Okay. And then, you have now more, I would say, specialized human rights groups. Na although hindi sila kasing ingay or kasing lakas ng mga grupo like Karapatan or Para or mga ganon, ay ginagawa naman yung mga dapat gawin din. Like, in fact, pati NetDems and all these other groups. I mean, these are human rights groups. Hindi lang sila the usual na masasabi mo na human rights group, but they're doing stuff that human rights groups should be doing. And again, dito papasok ngayon yung halaga ng collaboration, engagement, solidarity. So, to answer your question, the human rights movement in the Philippines has really improved much. And also, this goes also with, particularly with the Commission on Human Rights. Marami silang mga improvements na talaga nagawa. Marami pa rin mga palpak as government agencies tend to be. Pero in the whole, I think they're doing a really good job. This is something that I posted today nga sa Rights Report, yung kanilang report on, they had this tawag nila situation report on the condition of children na inaaresto ng gobyerno at nilalagay doon sa mga bahay pag-asa detention facilities. Kung saan, grabe yung pag-aabuso.
Correct.
Talaga?
Ang CHR ang gumawa niya. So, if for some reason ngayon lang nila nilabas kasi last year pa yung research na yan, yung report ay February pa natapos. Pero ngayon lang, this week lang nila nilabas. Pero again, may capacity sila talagang gawin yan. At may mga support din naman yung international communities sa kanila, mga embassies, diplomatic missions ito sa Pilipinas. Ay sinusuportahan naman itong CHR at also itong mga human rights organizations na
What kind
dito.
of abuses nangyari dito sa bahay pag-asa?
Well, ang pinakamatindi doon yung torture ng mga bata.
Oh,
Physical?
wow.
Physical
Physical torture. Wow.
So paghuli pa lang, sinusuntok, binubugbog. May isa pa nga sinabi doon, kinote ng CHR na binugbog daw siya, sinuntok sa tiyan at sinabihan siya na papatayin ka namin at ibabaon ka namin. Bata ito ha. Sasabihan, pulis ang gumawa. Tapos mayroon pa na nagko-complain yung bata, halimbawa na may nararamdaman siyang sakit, something sa katawan niya, tiyan or something, pinapainom lang siya ng isang katerbang tubig. Baka daw mawala. Tapos may iba na tumanda na sa loob ng detention facilities na yun. Isa, may nahuli, 17. Ngayon, 22 na. Andun pa rin.
Dapat sa regular.
Tapos ako mismo, I visited one of these places sa Caloocan in 2018. Grabe yung sitwasyon doon. Puno at nanlilimahid. Naglilik yung toilet.
Inhumane yung itsura.
Inhumane talaga. May mga pictures ako doon sa website nga namin, pinablish ko yun. It's really inhumane.
Congested.
DSWD projects ito, bahay pag-asa. And so, ito yung ni-report ngayon ng CHR. So, hindi lang isang center, but marami sa buong Pilipinas, Davao, Laguna, maraming regions silang pinuntahan. At nakita nga nila yung sitwasyon. So, yung ganon, may mga ganong klaseng inisyatiba ang CHR na lumalabas din naman. Pero again, at the end of the day, what's the government doing about it? Because the CHR can only recommend. They cannot prosecute. So, what are they gonna be doing about it? So, pagdating sa issue na yan, for instance, dito mo makikita yung kung seryoso ba si Mr. Marcos every time he says he respects human rights? Well, ang sukatan lang naman dyan, kung paano niya ni-enforce itong mga batas. So, for instance, CHR, bakit nakatenga pa rin yung bill on creating the CHR charter sa Kongreso? Bakit marami pa rin yung anti-discrimination bill, nakatenga pa rin dyan? Wala pa rin nangyayari. So again, sabi nga, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes.
So, ang laking problema pa rin.
Ayun, cut muna tayo for a break and babalik po ang Tech Sabado and talk more about rights natin dito lang, hindi lang online and offline.
Hi, Carlos Nazareno from democracy.net.ph. Please like, share, and follow Tech Sabado.
back dito sa Tech Sabado. Pag-uusapan natin yung human rights and of course yung mga rights natin online and offline. So we're back with
Kenas,
and
Caloy.
Conde, sila po yung mga mga human rights advocate na lumalaban talaga sa ating mga karapatan. Okay, let's continue our talk regarding mga rights natin. Actually, yun nga yung sabi natin, yung education pa rin is a big problem. So, saan ba tayo dapat mag-start when it comes to rights education? Sa school ba o saan?
How old, Nas?
Dapat
Sa toddler pa lang.
Toddler
pa lang,
Teach your kids to be proper human beings. To be, di ba?
Proper human beings. What is a proper human being?
Makatao.
Di ba pag kung naalala nyo nung nasa elementary tayo, meron tayong mga United Nations Day.
GMRC.
Diba?
Conduct.
Pero ngayon nawala. Kahit nung sinasabi nila, binalik nila, pero parang wala pa rin. Kasi when you're online, talaga makita mo, gaguhan, bastusan ng mga tao.
Oo, grabe.
Nawala yun.
Yung kabataan ngayon sa online gaming, kilala tayo sa mundo as the worst
Yes.
trash talkers.
Totoo.
Tinatawag yung Pinoys, P-E-E-N-O-I-S-E.
Pinang maingay tayo, pinakabastos tayo, pinaka-arrogante pa tayo, pinakamayabang tayo sa online mga e-games, sa mga
Dota.
sa mga ganyan na games, mga gaming, online gaming, no. Tapos binaban pa nga tayo, di ba? Binaban tayo dahil nga sa sobrang lang natin. Paka-racist pa natin. Isa pa nga paka-racist na mga Pinoy kasi naiintindihan. Akala ng mga Pinoy, hindi naiintindihan ng mga kalaban na, especially mga Asians. English magsalita tayo mga Pinoy, nakakalimutan nila, they can understand English.
Hindi lang yun. Sa sobrang laganap na ng reputation, alam na ng mga foreigner yung mga bad words sa Filipino.
Yes.
That's sad. That's
It is.
sad.
Actually, interaction days pa natin, ganun na.
Pero, tama naman yung sinabi ni Nas na, I don't think there's an age, hindi naman to be issue there should be an age where you start appreciating human life. Again, for some of us, it may be a privileged position. Sabihin natin, mga bata pa lang mga anak ko, sinuturuan namin yan maging respectful of human rights, and exactly how you do that, we don't know. But it starts with the most basic things. Pagdating sa, halimbawa, sa phone use pa lang, you cannot just arbitrarily confiscate their phones just because gusto mo or just because you think na, dito papasok ngayon yung mga pag-uusap within the family. Okay, we need to set some guidelines, we need to set some parameters here. You can use your phone but only on certain times. Yung mga ganung pag-uusap, mga ganung bagay. And I think when you start educating, hindi pa nga educating, when you start normalizing certain rights-respecting behavior, it accumulates. For instance, may katulong kayo, may kasambahay kayo, and how they treat them. You really need to call them out if they behave so poorly doon sa mga katulong nyo, kasambahay nyo. Because if you don't, what you're telling the kids is that okay lang na maging abusado ka. These are small things, at to some degree sasabihin, anong pakialam mo how we treat our kasambahay? But we have laws. Again, we have laws. We have the kasambahay law. We have certain human rights laws that protect this sector of people. So they need to be aware of those. And I think also you have to demand from your school na i-improve nila yung yung pagtuturo nilang
awareness.
Awareness, hindi lang human rights but also kung anong mga nangyayari sa Pilipinas. So let me tell you one story para lang i-illustrate ko kung gaano ka-valuable ito from my perspective as a parent. So before the pandemic, naka-enroll yung mga anak namin sa proper, actual, normal school. And then one day, Duterte time na to so ako medyo engaged ako, medyo invested ako dyan because it's my job, monitoring what's happening with the Duterte. One day, I forgot what the event was, but something big happened that day. And when they got home from school, yung mga anak ko, mga teenager na to I asked them, napag-usapan niyo ba sa school to yung nangyari kay Duterte and all of that? And they looked at me as if I was, ano nagsasabi ng mamang to? They were clueless. And that really bothered me because, something's happening outside. Tapos hindi nyo man lang napag-uusapan itong mga to. I mean, hindi naman ito mga elementary na. Sir, mga high school na mga ano. So that started our journey into looking at alternatives.
Correct.
So we took our kids out of that school and nag-homeschool na kami.
Okay.
And from hanggang ngayon, nag-homeschool pa rin kami because we just couldn't trust schools na hindi ginagawa yung mga ganong klaseng bagay. It's not because we're trying to form our kids, trying to turn them into activists or anything. But, there are stuff around nung nangyari sa Pilipinas, sa bansa natin, that these kids need to know.
Correct.
And if
They need to familiarize themselves with current events, man lang.
And if you're a school na hindi mo sinasabi yan, may malaking problema yan. So, ang nangyari pa noon, ay na siyempre, kasi ako ang nag-suggest, tinoka pa sa akin yung current events, tsaka
Ikaw ang professor nila.
That's fine. So, ngayon, yung mga anak ko, yung dalawa at least, bumalik na sa actual normal school.
Okay.
And doing okay.
Yep.
And I'm confident na nung nangyari yun, medyo na-instill namin sa kanila yung mga dapat na ma-instill. So, the bottom line sa akin is that, not to be preachy about it or not telling you guys what to do or whoever's watching this, how to run their families, but you can do certain things.
Yes.
All you have to do is maging seryoso ka lang doon.
Tama.
And you need to know kung ano yung gagawin mo.
Correct.
Kasi, again, sasabihin ko, caveat dito, I can do that because, because I have the resources to do that. I have a really supportive wife who can do that. But hindi naman lahat ay ganun ang sitwasyon. But you just have to try. And then, from there, handaan na yan.
Now, nakikita kong problema ngayon sa ganyang klaseng mga situation, no? Yung disinformation and misinformation happening not only online, but kahit offline yan, nangyayari yan, mga disinformation and misinformation. And that's also a rights violation sa mga tao, no? Na hindi mo sila binibigyan ng tamang impormasyon. Lalo, to the point na, again, para sa akin, started 2016, lumala ang pag-distrust sa mainstream media. It practically killed, di ba? Yung time natin. Kasi nung nasa interaction ako, inabot ko pa Pinoy administration din Duterte. Nung mga Pinoy, nung kay Pinoy pa, medyo parang okay lang, di ba? Okay lang. Pero pagdating talaga 2016, talagang totally collapse ng trust to the people who are giving the right information. Then, na-realize ko rin na, kasi na-expose din yung mainstream media. Anong agenda. May agenda rin kasi naman talaga dahil most of these mainstream media companies are corporations.
Yeah.
May rin sila doon. So, talagang, kumbaga, doon na nagkaroon ng confusion yung mga tao yung exposure ng mainstream media na meron talaga silang agenda. Although alam naman natin na meron na, pero ito mas lumawak yung ng mga tao. And then these people ang umalma. The masses talaga. Hindi, niloloko nyo lang kami. So to the point na ano na yung totoo at saka ano na yung hindi totoo. Especially sa online.
Ito ang tingin ko, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but ito ang tingin ko ang halaga ng pasok ng mga advocacy groups. Lalo na in terms of hindi naman natin nilalahat or hindi naman natin sinasabi ang sama talaga ng media. May masama, may mabuti, kahit saan naman meron yan. No? But the fact is that pag malinaw na yung issue, halimbawa, ng panahon ni Duterte, whether pro-Duterte ka or hindi, pag malinaw na yung issue, extrajudicial killing, there's no way you can defend that.
Yes.
At kumikiling ka pa rin doon sa nag-violate, matinding problema yan.
Yes.
So,
yan.
dito ngayon papasok yung papel ng advocacy groups. Like ako, nung nasa Human Rights Watch ako, talaga ako dito. And it just so happened na dati ako media, marami akong connect sa media, so that's why ang ingay-ingay ko. Pero, kailangan mo talagang mag-engage din sa media.
Correct.
Itong, for instance, nangyayari ngayon yung online space natin, a lot of the problems that we were facing right now online space. Imagine mo ang sitwasyon kung wala si Nas, wala si Doc Ligo, at wala yung iba. Talking about these things. Wala kayo. Walang kasi hindi naman namin domain ito eh. It's a human rights issue, but we only know we know so little about this thing. So din papasok ngayon yung dapat ang ng advocacy groups and civil society actors. Yun ang kahalagahan noon. Hindi mo pwedeng, again, given the limitations na rin ng media, hindi mo pwedeng iwan na lang sa kanila yung responsibilidad para mag-educate sa mga tao. Kailangan mo talaga ng matinding push.
Oh, in fact, sorry, go ahead.
Double tap yan eh. Kasi nangyari sa Pilipinas yung pagtawag ng prostitutes, di ba?
Oh,
Ng
yes,
certain
yes.
faction.
Oh.
Nangyari rin yan sa States, yung tinatawag na you're fake news.
Yes.
You're fake news, you're
Si
fake news.
Trump
you're fake
nag-umpisa
news.
niyang fake news na yan eh.
Magkasabay sila ni Duterte.
Oh.
Kasi ano yan eh, nag-mirror sila eh. Pareho sila nag-Cambridge Analytica. So, what they did in the West, they tried first, then they exported to the West. Kaya dark mirror yung dalawang yun.
No. Kung mapapansin nyo, halos parehong
Fire
ang
hose, may
nangyayari.
tinatawag na fire hose of falsehood.
Yes.
Mabombard ka na ng fake news, yung mga fact checker hindi na makakip up, yung mga tao mapapagod na lang, magiging manhid dun sa fake news, tapos tatanggapin na lang.
Kukuyugin nila yung mga palaban, tapos hanggang tatahimik na lang kasi they don't want to get involved.
So,
yung mga palaban talaga na lumalaban dyan.
So ngayon na medyo sira yung traditional journalists sa public, I think influencers and celebrities should step up for the truth.
Yeah.
Kasi mataas yung trust ngayon sa mga influencer.
That's true.
Question
So,
is which truth?
Well, there are
There are
objective
truths.
truths. There still are objective truths in this post-truth world.
Kaya nga gusto ko nga sabihin kanina no, na maswerte pa tayo. Kasi may ibang countries don't have us.
Yeah.
Don't have people like you na mga
Or
advocates.
maswerte tayo na nasa generation tayo ngayon. I'm Gen X, I know, pero at least yung mga Gen Z ang medyo nag-worry tayo at saka yung mga kasunod nila in terms of how solid is their understanding of all these things.
Correct.
So, may study dyan sa Cambridge University, may Cambridge Misinformation Susceptibility Test or MIST. Tinesting nila around the world, iba-ibang demographic over the internet, kung gaano ka vulnerable ka to fake news. May test. Can you identify fake news or not? Hulaan nyo kung sinong generation yung pinaka-vulnerable.
Boomers.
Gen Z.
Gen Z. Okay.
Extremely online Gen Z. Kasi,
Galit tayo sa boomers.
kasi hindi sila, yung mga babad sa TikTok, sa social media.
Correct.
Kasi imbes na tumitingin sila sa totoong news,
Oh.
nagre-rely sila masyado sa social media kung
Yes.
saan maraming manipulation.
Tsaka I think also, Nas, I don't know if this is true, pero I just detect na parang may nagdi-disengage sila.
From face to face. From
No, not just from the physical ng mga, but even
Disengaging to reality.
yung,
Di ba?
they're creating their own reality.
Yeah.
Yun, oh.
That's the thing. Kahapon nga, we had this event, nagpa-game yung organizer and Gen Z yung category. Marami kami doon, mga millennials at mga Gen X. Nangangan na lang kami. Anong sasagot natin sa mga to? Because we didn't know anything. So, I think it would be easy to say it's a generation gap. Pero I think kung ano ka lang talaga, again, going back to the family and to your community, kung alam yung problema at hindi na pag-uusapan to, then that itself is a problem.
Isang problema rin kasi wala na tayong shared reality sa algorithmic social media.
Oo.
Kumbaga, customized ang mga wall natin sa isa't isa natin. May sarili-sarili tayong mga multiverse.
May kanya-kanya tayong
So ngayon,
Compartmentalized.
kung iba yung nakikita mong mundo sa nakikita ng katabi mo, kunyari may Dilawan, DDS, Maka Marcos, o maski anong faction, iba yung pinapakita ng feed, paano ngayon kayo magkakabit-kabit na mag-uusapan?
Yeah.
So ngayon, yung polarization or yung pagkawatak-watak ng mga Pilipino, ng mga Amerikano sa isa't isa, yan ang ginagamit niyo ng mga bad actor para sirain yung society natin.
Oh my God.
Caloy and Naz, what's the role of AI in digital rights advocacy?
Go ahead, Nash. Unahin mo na.
Well, algorithms have been running on AI in social media. So they have been
For a
sort
while
of
now, yeah.
destroying
So
in a way.
negative yung effect?
So far negative. Kasi yung multiverse of disconnected realities na nangyari sa atin.
it's negative because of all of the data that AI is scrubbing from the internet, or is it because the way that the data is fed
The
and
way
it's
we're being
processed?
fragmented as a society.
Okay.
And also the way it's used. I mean, look, ang tingin ko naman kasi dyan, there has to be a thing, I think I've read it somewhere, AI for good or something. Ang personal na tingin ko kasi dyan, AI is just a tool. I mean, it's in fact, somebody even wrote na it's not even just a tool, it's something else, but much more important. It all depends on how you use it. Now, for a society like ours, Filipino, na napaka-fragmented, napaka-compartmentalized, ang dali-daling i-exploit yan. Ang dali-daling i-hijack ng mga AI tools na yan. And it's happening. I mean, it's feeding into all of this disinformation because it's so easy to do, di ba? Pero, on the other hand, if you really know how to use it, and if you are conscious about using it for something good, it can be done. It can be used for that. Ang problema lang, tingin ko, may bias lang talaga ngayon ang publiko sa AI kasi ang tingin sa basta AI, masama na. Pero tingin ko, it will come to a point where maano na rin yan, magbabago din naman yan. Pero again, that only happens because I think mas matindi yung harm na nagagawa niya kaysa sa good na
Right
potential.
now.
Tama? I mean, it's
currently an amplifier. Like yung mga deepfake.
deepfakes, yeah.
Dito pumapasok yung tool. Kunyari, paggamit ng ChatGPT, ng mga large language model, to help you write and do messaging. Isa yun. So, ginagamit yan for good and for bad. Gaya na na-discuss last week, or nung kilan, yung troll farms na ginagamit siya pang alter na messaging para hindi lang copy-paste. Para unique yung messaging.
Correct.
Pero imagine mo to, ha? I mean, let's talk about media, for instance. And this is an experience ko sa rights report. Kasi nga, very skeletal na yan. AI, ang ganda ng potential niya to help newsrooms na walang resources. We're not just talking about ChatGPT. Marami dyan ayos sa ChatGPT. We're also talking about Claude, Copilot, Notebook LM, mga gano'n. Or some systems na medyo you have a semblance of control. Na maano mo pa siya, makokontrol mo pa siya. So meron talaga siyang magandang pwedeng gawin. Again, but it's not for everybody. Personally, I think if you're gonna be using AI to produce something, halimbawa for journalism, reports and all of that, I use it to structure may ginagawa akong mga mahahabang report. I use it to extract information from really long reports that I wouldn't dare read. Kasi nga, napaka
100-page report.
Dense. Oh, exactly. So, but I feed that to the machine, to AI, and it churns out really good information. And the thing there is that you have to check it. You have to vet it. You have to edit it. Because without that, kung wala yung ganyang klaseng level of verification, talo ka. Dito ngayon papasok yung talagang dapat, kung gagamit ka ng AI, you really have to know what you're doing. And to some degree, in fact, if you're a journalist and now you say, sige, mag-data journalism na ako and all of that, because it really, AI, some systems, really makes data journalism easier these days. But one, you really need to know what questions to ask, what prompts to put in, and exactly kung ano yung issue. You cannot allow ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude to do the thinking for you. I think that's the key. So again, if you're gonna be using it, dapat
Tama.
Maalam ka tungkol sa subject.
Sundutin ko lang yung sinabi ni Caloy before we end, Jing. Many newsrooms actually will use AI, but the actual output has to be verifiably human.
Of course, yeah.
So, for example, in Manila Times, Jing and I helped in formulating the AI policy. And our basis for that was very simple. If there was something libelous that comes out, you have to have a person to bring to court.
Accountable ka pa rin.
Sabi ko nga
Accountable ka pa rin.
if any newsroom now says that they don't use AI, they're lying.
Yes, that's
they're
so
lying.
True.
True.
That's totoo yan.
True.
It's there. It's
Correct.
Even before the explosion of ChatGPT, we've always been using some sort of AI
Google
before.
search or Siri
I mean, I guess my point here is we just have to be intellectually honest about it.
Yes.
And really make sure that you're using it properly.
Correct.
Again, doon ako mag-draw the line of is it drafting your story for you? That's another thing.
Yeah.
But if it's so that you can make you can structure a story properly.
Yep.
I think
Or
that's
even
helpful.
edit.
Or dig through a voluminous document.
Correct. Or style book. Yeah.
I mean, just keep in mind, halimbawa, PSA, Philippine Statistical Authority, there's a wealth of data there.
Yes.
that probably needs just one system. So mag-vibe code ka na and then para gumawa ka na to be accessed.
Correct.
And there's a lot of stories to be done there. So again, it's all about knowing what to do with it.
Yeah. With AI.
Ako, ginagamit ko yun for my style book.
Kunyari sa Better Gov, ginagamit namin yun to scroll through government data for reports, kunyari sa flood control. Tapos,
Yes.
we collaborate with PCIJ,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay. So, Atty.
We'd like to thank for tonight's guesting si very good discussion by the way. May talagang marami tayong makukuha. Of course, si Carlos Nazareno from democracy.net.ph, who by the way contributes to Newsbytes.ph as our e-security writer. Isa pang area of advocacy niya.
I'm not an expert, I'm just an advocate.
Okay.
Yes. So, and of course, the GOAT. Tulad
The GOAT.
Ewan ko saan ang galing yan, pero sige.
Si
Caloy,
Conde. Yan. I told him earlier na I was reading his pieces when he was still with the New York Times.
Yes.
Maraming pong salamat sa inyong
OG
dalawa.
and OG.
The OG.
Maraming salamat for the two of you to coming over here sa Jesuit, they call it JESCOM building here at Ateneo de Manila University. Okay, ako po si Melvin Calimag ng Newsbytes.ph. Kita-kita ulit po tayo next week. Tito Tribs, ka naman.
Maraming salamat po, Raymund Tribdino po, Tito Tribs ng The Manila Times, TechSabado at CleanTechnica.com. Ang ating digital hygiene tip for today, galing din dun sa usapan natin. Kung kayo magulang, magpalaki ko yun ng bata. Hindi ho ito ang gamit. Salamat.
Okay, Jing Garcia po ng TechSabado.com and of course, The Manila Times. Bukas po, Sunday Business and IT sa Manila Times. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan, nandun po ating mga columnists. So, yan po. Again, thank you kay Naz and Caloy, mga kasama namin dito, naging guest for tonight. Okay, that's it everyone. See you next week and good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.